I greet you in the name of Jesus, the one who calms the storm. In a stormy sea, a figure comes walking across the water towards the disciples in their boat. Already in crisis, challenged by wind and waves and thrown about, they call out, "It's a ghost!" They hear their friend reply, "Courage, it is I. Do not fear." When Jesus climbs into the boat, the wind and waves settle. No longer is this a ghost or a teacher or friend. They respond to the events with worship and with the revelation, truly, you are the Son of God. Can you imagine when Peter, even as an adult man, goes home and tells his mother about when he stepped out of the boat to walk on the water in a storm because Jesus said, "Come." As a parent, you might say, "What were you thinking?" I'm not sure which part of the story Peter would highlight. His spur-of-the-moment challenge, his courageous leap over the edge, his few moments of absolute wonder as he joined Jesus in this miraculous experience, or maybe the fear and horror when he noticed the wind and began to sink. His crying out, "Lord, save me," or the moment that Jesus caught his hand. I'm interested in Peter's decisive action to step out of the boat onto the water. I also want to link that rash decision with a different story from the Bible in our Old Testament reading today. Young Joseph with the fancy coat is annoying his brothers and making them jealous to the point that they want to kill him. Reuben, the eldest, speaks up, intervening. "Don't kill him. Let's just throw him into this dry well and leave him there." Reuben plans to come back, rescue Joseph, and return him to their father. Reuben's intervention, his impulsive and decisive no to save Joseph's life, changed the course of history for the people of Israel. Peter, in his moment of courage and inspiration, seeing in Jesus the fullness of all that he could be, created a pivotal moment for the disciples, but also for Peter himself, as he began to make the impossible possible. Even if just for a moment, he embodied the man he would be, the rock on which God would build the church. I'm talking about leadership, the ability to take decisive action in a storm. It's those people who are unafraid that we rely on in times of crisis. Call them impetuous or foolish, and Peter definitely had that reputation. They do not let fear and doubt stop them when it counts most. In retrospect, we can judge people of good intention for what they did, but how much more do we judge good-hearted people for what they didn't do, for their silence? 9 brothers would have left Joseph dead in the desert if Reuben had not spoken up when he did. Peter may never have stepped up again if he had not had that first experience testing his faith and trust in who Jesus is. Here's the thing. For both Reuben and Peter, the outcome was not what they had imagined or desired. Reuben went back to the well, only to discover that the brothers had sold Joseph into slavery. Peter barely took a step or two before his fear of the wind overcame him. But I'm interested in that moment, the courage and the impulse and the decision to act. Let's understand that frequently we can't take credit for any outcome. We're not that powerful that our actions control or guarantee any result we desire. And God's outcome may look different. Thinking of Reuben and Peter, even our so-called failure to achieve our perfect outcome becomes an opportunity or an opening in which God's purposes and possibilities emerge. Faith says God will do something with the outcome, and every day We place our actions, our decisions, our judgment calls as an offering of surrender, a sign of our faith in God's loving power. Sometimes we have time to meet and discuss and weigh the consequences, and sometimes we don't. When we pause too long to examine the wind and waves, we talk ourselves into doing nothing. As individuals and as a society, we reason ourselves into inaction and we become ineffective because the moment that would have made a difference goes past. I'm talking about Women's Day today and about August as the month of compassion and Women's Month. Firstly, to honour the courageous actions of the 20,000 women who marched in 1956, and particularly out of respect for the leadership shown by Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Albertina Sisulu, Rahima Musa, and Sophia Williams de Bruyn, and the heritage that lives on because of them. But I'm also calling us into action and saying, don't let this moment pass. When we hear the crying and shouting next door, it's not okay to say, I don't want to get involved. If we heard it, we're involved. When we have that silent family agreement that we don't talk about someone's temper, when we drive past and look away, I'm referring in particular to gender-based violence, but also in this month of compassion to all types of violence and abuse of power to which we are witnesses. Report abusers. Stop protecting them or making excuses for them. Support survivors. Organize. Don't leave victims left standing alone against not only their abuser, but a whole abusive system. What will it take before we step out of the boat in spite of the wind and waves? We can only change the culture by collective action. And with faith, we can lead. It can start with speaking up when a sexist or racist joke is told in our presence. When someone is demeaned or objectified because that type of boys talk or racist talk has been normalized. Doing something is scary. Doing nothing is worse. I pray that we will have courage to step out of the boat. I pray most of all that we won't be in danger and that no one will have to act alone. But please decide to act. I believe God will intervene with us. There is a life-giving outcome that we can set in motion through small but powerful acts of leadership and faith in the storm.